What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sales Remastered. Right now, in this episode, is video number 4 of how to cold call. It's a video series. Haven't confirmed how many videos it's going to take. I'm kind of just going off the whim, and I'm explaining different pillars that are needed in any successful and effective outbound sales system, or whatever type of campaign you're doing. And over the last 3 videos, the third one was just shot this morning about an hour ago. The last video actually covered, what to say if you get a cold call connection from a customer service representative. And so in this episode, we're going to talk about, well, what if you get a cold call connection by yourself, right? Like, what if you're with a company, or maybe you're in a position where you just don't have access to a customer service dialer, right? Like a customer service department. Maybe you don't have somebody connecting you to these cold calls. And to be honest with you, that's probably the absolute best way that you could do it, meaning that you don't want to rely on a customer service representative anyway to get you some cold call dials. The truth of the matter is you're probably going to have a higher chance of closing that prospect and gaining their trust if you're the one to speak with them directly. And so now the question is, okay, cool, D. So I got all the pillars. I understand the system. Now I'm going to go ahead and attack it today. So today I'm going to, whatever bucket you search, whether it's your company's Shark Tank, whether it's maybe your team's inactive leads, or maybe past leads that could not be sold from your company, or they haven't done business with your company, and so you're doing outbound attempts. You're actually the one doing the calling. You're not relying on a dialer. And so now the question is, well, what do I say to these people? And this is where the absolute most important pillar of whether it's outbounds or inbounds, this is just an important pillar, period. Like, you just need to have this regardless of any sales industry, any position you have. Fuck it. Even if you're not in sales, you should have this pillar. This pillar is called creativity. Creativity is actually what's going to set you apart. It's what really does spark the interest. And I want to give you an example, because you might be thinking, well, creative like what? Like I gotta sing? Like, like my intro has to rhyme? The hell are you talking about, D? Like, creative like how? Like creative like ha-ha, or creative like ha? And so what I'm going to share with you is how to be creative. And so, for example, let's use current time. Today is March 1st, 2018. If I was doing an outbound call, there's a few things that I like to look at. I like to look at not only the street name, like let's say if the street name was Wilson Street, right? Like, I'm going to name Wilson Street right off the bat. And I'm also going to pay attention to the county name, because I'm going to mention the county in my opening script. Now, why I mentioned 2018 is because it's still towards the beginning of the year, and we can be creative enough to where our message is like, hey, we're sending you a quick notice, or a quick a message to your email account. I got your email on file. Since you're here in Orange County, I wanted to make sure you're one of the homeowners that's in the know, meaning that you're aware of the changes and the developments that have taken place in 2018, and we want to make sure that you just don't let this pass you by. So anyway, I'm sending that over to you. It's going to be on its way. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. And notice how the tone is different than what your traditional outbound scripting might sound like, right? The tonality gives the caller the impression that it's already on its way, right? And it almost gives the illusion that I'm about to hang up the phone right now, but the call's just started. And so if I was calling, let's say Jim on Wilson Street in Orange County, my call would sound something like this. Hey Jim, this is Daniel. I just want to make sure that this email is correct. I already got it on file. I'm actually going to send you some information. It's a complimentary report that's going to be based on your property on Wilson in Orange County. You see, you may have spoken with us in the past, but I want to make sure that for the time that you spent with us, that you're at least kept in the know. You're at least, kept up to speed with the changes of the tax reform and the developments in 2018 that's happening within Orange County. And so your property here on Wilson Street may be eligible for certain programs that's going to enable you to improve the term. Whether you decide to use these entitlements is completely up to you. Whether you have a use for the monthly savings is completely at your discretion. But it's always good to know that it's there so that you can take action. So I'm going to send it over to your Gmail account. And whenever you get it, feel free to ask me any questions. Otherwise, have a great day. Okay, yeah, go ahead and send it. Yeah, the email's great. Got it. Hey, you know what? While I got you on the phone, let me go and tailor it out for you. As a matter of fact, I can send you our complimentary offer, or I can send you a tailored option, meaning that I'm going to take the new developments that have happened in 2018 and I'm going to apply it directly to you. So that way I'm not just sending you general information. It doesn't seem like spam mail. This is more custom fit. Now, I don't need to go too deep because number one is I still need to make sure you even qualify for it. But at the end of the day, I want to show you at least what kind of potential you have to use these programs. So while I got you on the phone, let me just confirm a few things. The balance on the mortgage right now, is your goal to pay it off in 30 years, or did you want to see another program that could show you how to pay it off sooner? Right? And then they may say, yeah, I'd like to pay my house off sooner. Got it. With regards to the mortgage, besides that, are there any other debts in the picture, like credit card debt, installment loans, student loans? And then they may say, yeah, I got some credit card debt. Okay, got it. How much roughly in credit card debt? Just a rough estimate's fine. 15 grand. Okay. And then besides the mortgage payment, how much are you sending to the credit card debt? And then they're going to say, I send probably about maybe 200, 300. Now, this is an important question that you have to ask the prospect. Got it. Is that 300 that you send the minimum, or are you sending above and beyond the due payment? And then they're going to tell you, oh, I think it's the minimum payment. Now you have leverage to carry on the conversation. Now, let's just say if it's all I'm paying above and beyond that, say, okay, great. Is it like a company account, expense account, and it's not really eating into your net income? They say, yeah, you know what? I just pay it off every month. We buy our groceries. This is something that's common. Say, okay, cool. So it sounds like you're the one who pays the bills. Just out of curiosity, you know, I can ask you for your gross income, but at the end of the day, it's really going to be based on your net income. So of your net income, let's use February, for example. How much of your February's net income after all your bills were paid followed you into March? And now you're going to ask them what their actual net income is. And the meaning behind it is because you're trying to find out if there is a surplus or if there is a deficit. Even if it's just what comes in comes out, right? Like it's just an even balance. Like I make $3,000 net and all my living expenses are $3,000, so there's actually no money left. So even if it's a even balance, or even, you know, it's just what comes in goes out, and also, you know, what comes in goes out and then some. So there's a deficit. Is two important things to keep in mind, right? Now, here's the thing, though, is that a lot of them that you ask are going to say that they have a surplus, and it is important that you ask them these questions. So when they say, you know, Daniel, I think I got maybe $2,000 surplus. Say, okay, beautiful. That surplus goes into, I'm sure, probably checking and savings account. How much have you built thus far with this $2,000 surplus? What's the balance of that account? And you're going to find that they're going to say, oh, probably maybe 2,000 or 4,000. They're going to give you an inflated number, right? And what we're trying to do is funnel them into a state where they realize that what comes in goes out, or in some cases, what comes in actually is not enough to what has to go out, right? And so sometimes there's a deficit. And what you're going to find is, even though they say they have a $2,000 surplus, do not take that, or whatever surplus they give you, do not take that as the official answer. You have to go above and beyond that and ask them and say, okay, great, sounds good. Sounds like you got a lot of cash flow, which is really going to help you get this house paid off faster. And that's something that he mentioned that, you know, that he wanted to do. So I'm teetering off that, right? And say, okay, cool. So it sounds like you have more than enough money to pay this thing off faster. Let me see if I can get that out for you. Quick question though. Of the $2,000 surplus that you got per month, this is obviously building you a pretty big account. I mean, that's $24,000 extra per year, which is great. More surplus than most homeowners within Orange County. Just out of curiosity, how much have you built up in that particular account that you put all your surplus to? And this is where you got them. They're gonna say $3,000. Say, oh, I see. Was there any recent projects? Or if you're putting $2,000 every month, how come it's only $3,000? And so they're going to tell you, oh, well, usually, you know, there's other expenses. There's daycare, there's childcare, there's, you know, there's hobbies, there's dining out, there's vacations, you know, life basically, right? And then when you get them to a point where they realize that there is need beyond just getting the lowest rate, now you can use the most important pillar, which is creativity, right? And so now you're getting creative to figure out kind of these hot buttons. An important hot button is surplus or deficit, right? Like how much they have left at the end of each month, because that's really the motivating factor. That's the whole punchline of them asking you for a lower rate. As I mentioned in video 3, you know, if you ask anyone who's outside of the mortgage industry, they're going to assume that the lower the rate, the lower payment, right? But what they don't realize is how low the rates can go, and sometimes it just positions us as the one who has to educate them and one who has to point things out. And you'll be amazed how many people feel that they understand how it works because of their friends or their family or maybe some sort of documentary they watched, you know. And it's important that we understand where they are, you know, with their understanding, so that we can correct them. Now the trick is, though, how do you correct them? Do you correct them all cocky, right? Like, oh no, it doesn't work that way. Let me, you know, like, I mean, because you don't want to come off like that, right? Like you don't want, in other words, you don't want to come off as if you're telling them they've been wrong this entire time. One of the things, it's human nature to not like to admit that we're wrong, right? And so the message shouldn't be like, hey, you've been going about it all wrong. The message should be, hey, you know what? It's okay if you thought this, right? Most homeowners do. But what I found, and the truth, and then you educate them the truth, but you're doing it in a nice way. You're doing it in a way where they don't feel threatened and they don't feel ashamed. They're not embarrassed because of what they believed was true, right? And so now this changes their perception of you. You now become a consultant rather than the salesman. And through creativity, you keep your image as a consultant, not a salesman. And so that's the important pillar, and that's why creativity is needed. You know, I shared with you some words and how to script a opening call and what to use and how to set a system. So I really hope that these 4 videos on how to cold call has helped you. I hope that you know, some techniques in here you can implement today. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on that. I got an idea, you know, hey, I had an idea, I want to run it by you. You know, it's fucking fire. It's money, because it does not sound like a pitch. And you got to understand that you cannot make your engagement sound like a pitch. Your pitch literally needs to sound like a collaboration. Do you know what a collaboration is? You collaborate with the designer. You collaborate even with a doctor or an attorney. Like, you're collaborating, meaning that you're working together to create a solution to a problem. And if your idea, right, is not necessarily in line, they'll tell you and say, hey, I like your idea, but this is actually what I'm looking for. They just told you how to sell them, right? So this is where creativity comes in. Most pitches, they start like this. Hey, this is Daniel. You got a pen and paper? Okay, let me go and go over those options with you. And you don't even have the audacity to make sure that the other person's involved, right? Like the other borrower, like, and not only that, but sometimes we make sure that they fit our timeline, right? Like, hey, Jim, I got to leave here at 5. Ozark's coming on tonight. I know you don't got a minute, but let me try to force feed you this pitch in 5 minutes. I know it typically takes 45 minutes, but I got to go. I got about an hour of traffic I got to sit through just to get to my Netflix account. And so, and that's, you know, that's exaggerant, but at the same time, if it's not Netflix, maybe it's bowling. If it's not bowling, maybe it's, you know, the game. If it's not the game, maybe it's the video game. If it's not the you know what I mean? There's always just that something. And we have to weigh it out. We literally have to weigh it out and say, hey man, is it worth, you know what I mean, adapting to their availability? And I believe it is, because the whole goal is to generate a sale from them, right? And so we have to find times that are most convenient for them to absorb our information, but we have to dictate when that time is. And so if you're trying to pitch someone, if you're trying to win them their business at 4:30, but 4:30 is not a good time to get their focus so that you can use your creativity, you can implement your system, you can make sure that you have both people on the same level, both homeowners, both decision makers, and they're at the table right before you where they can make the decision on your collaboration to execute the idea that you both come up with. That's not a sale, my friend. That's a fucking collaboration. And there's just something more powerful when your prospect feels like they chose the decision, when they feel like they designed the pitch. Like they designed the program. It's tailor fit. That's something that's going to separate you from everyone else, because not everyone's using creativity going to these cold calls. This is how cold calls sound like. Hey, Jim, this is Daniel. I'm with such and such lender. I'm just checking in to see if you have any questions, any need for cash out, want to see if you want to do any debt consolidation. But see, what we forget is Jim is part of a society that's not plugged into the market. And so the media outlet that Jim's plugged into is his network. It's his neighbors. It's his friends. It's CNN. It's CNBC telling him the market's up. Right. And so he puts 2 and 2 together. And he says, oh, yeah, no, I was told, doing cash out is just not a good idea. But that's how we iterated it. Right. And so because we don't use creativity, we'll say, okay, well, thanks for your time, Jim. And we inactivate the lead saying Jim doesn't want cash out. Well, yeah, Jim doesn't want cash out, but what Jim does want is a solution to the deficit that he has every month, because it's eating up his balance and he's racking up credit card debt, and Jim's wife, Susie's getting mad and getting scared, and Jim doesn't want to hear Susie complain anymore, and they're now expecting a new kid, and Susie will soon not be able to work, and kids come with expenses. You see, all that is the underlying reasons why they should buy. But without any creativity, we're not going to be able to extract that information to sell them. So now you know how to sell them. If you like this video, if you learned anything, please comment below. Let me know your takeaway. Share these 4 videos on how to cold call to someone else. As I mentioned in the last one, the ability to generate revenue is an uncanny talent. It's uncomparable, right? How would you feel if you had enough job security where literally you can go anywhere? Why would you go anywhere? Because tell me, what company is going to turn someone down who knows how to originate deals themselves, who knows how not to feed off a dialer, who knows how to save the money's marketing budget because you're just a craftier closer and you follow Sales Remastered? They're not going to turn you down, bruh. I'll see you guys on the next video. Hope this helps. Bye.